Got it. Thumbs up from Wilson. Yes. All right. Awesome. So this is myself and my beautiful wife, Cecilia Palomino. Again, we were in Eric Space Shop in 2014. We got to learn from the best. We got to learn from the person who created Pinnacle and has over 90 direct SMDs, including ourselves. And, we got a lot of value from understanding what the system is with Pinnacle. And it's very important that we understand that when we get into Pinnacle, we follow what it is that makes us successful as an organization and what is changing people's lives continuously, milestone after milestone. So we're based out of Dallas, Texas. But again, with the Zoom era that we're in, we can grow and go anywhere we would like. And, that's probably the biggest paradigm shift that I hope you guys have all bought into is the opportunity has never been better than it is now. And the growth of this organization is only going to get that much bigger. And I'm excited for what's, the last 19 days of 2020 are here. But what 2021 is going to bring is just a great opportunity for us to just really, grow this organization so much more. And I'll start off real quick. I just want to let you guys know that, one part of why I'm here is for the simple fact to build a legacy for my family, to leave a lasting impression. Working within the organization of the bank and the wealth management division, which I'll go into as well, I see that 95% of the people that have a seven-figure income or seven figures ready to invest, they had one thing in common, that they all owned a business. They all put themselves out there, they took the risk, and they're reaping the rewards. And the other 5% either inherited the money or inherited the legacy of the money that these individuals did. So I knew that I always needed to, build something and start something big. And it started out with my mom and my dad. And, one of the biggest things is that, be blessed that if you still have both your parents. And, my dad passed away about 5 years ago. And I want to make sure that I carry his name on as well because I'm named right after him. And we want to make sure we're building a family legacy. I'm the youngest of four. I have three older sisters. And, we're a great family. We're, building a great last name, but it starts with me. I'm the one that has last name. I'm the only boy in the family. It's up to me to carry this legacy, but I get to lead this great family over here with my beautiful wife, my daughter Isabella, and my two boys, Andrew and Lorenzo. They're a great unit, and I'm blessed to have them in my life. And this reminds me every day of why I do this, why I go impact families, because we got to leave a lasting impression for the next generation. So now I'm going to jump into what I was going to get into today. So again, 17 years of experience, 13 of them understanding how the banks work. I started at 21 years old at Wells Fargo Bank in 2003. And I just want you guys to get this. I always talk about this, but Eric started Pinnacle in 2003. I started the bank. So our journeys were different, but I'm glad that I ended up, being part of Pinnacle now because I see the value. Again, you get to understand the leadership that we have within the organization. But my journey started in 2003 with Wells Fargo, and I started as a traditional banker, slash teller. I learned every aspect of, the entry level positions. And I just want you guys to understand this isn't going to be a knock on the people that work at the bank. It's going to be more of the understanding of how the banking system really works. So that way you can understand why more people have no idea what they're doing with their money in regards to financial education, right? So I'm going to go into it here. So one of the aspects of banking 101, I call it, is basically traditionally banks are where the majority of Americans get their financial information. Just think about it. Some people are, brand new in our organization. Some people have been here for a long time. But prior to getting on board, think about where you ask questions about your money, right? How long have you had a bank account? And prior to coming here, how much did they really teach you about money, right? And one of the things is the reason why is because they make so much money from there. And one change that a lot of people didn't know happened within the banking sector, banking industry, is that it went from being called a branch, which is like basically obviously the branch of the bank. It went from being called that to be called a store, right? And the reason they call it a store now is because they're there for you to buy things from them, right? Or be sold things. It is not for savings. Think about what store have you ever gone to that you saved money going there, right? Never. The store is called, the reason it's called a store is for you to buy something or somebody's going to sell you something, right? So that's a big change, and that's a big understanding of why it's called a store, and they're called store managers as well, right? So the traditional banking products are what you're going to get. So, for example, when you walked into the bank, you got your first account, you were offered the basic products of checking, savings, certificate of deposit, in those aspects. So there was not really a lot of information given to you outside of these basic things, because this is where the banks really make their money, right? So they're not going to sell you things or put you to things to help you grow your money. And again, it goes into the same simple fact that it's how we get trained is all that matters, right? So when we first got there, everything about our training was basically how to get people into debt, how to take advantage of credit cards, how to get lines of credit, all those different aspects. That's what we were trained, from the teller all the way up to the senior bankers, to the business bankers. Everything was about how can you get a credit card in the hands of the everyday person coming into the branch every single day, right? And they put goals behind it, and it jumps into like the aspect of it. Every metric that was set up for us to basically hit our goals were set up for basically to have loans, lines of credit, and credit cards. The more of those you sold, the higher metrics you earned, and then the bonuses that you received as well. So everything was designed around getting people into debt. So I want you guys to understand this, that the conversations that the bankers are having at the bank is to get people into debt. The conversations that we're having every single day is about saving money, building a legacy, not leaving liabilities. So you already understand that you separate yourself from day one, because you're talking about how to build a legacy, build a family bank, and leave something to the next generation. The banking and the people that work there are talking about liabilities, getting into debt, getting overwhelmed with credit card debt, right? So you're going to kind of get the separation here in a little bit as well, in addition to other things as well. So most entry-level tellers and bankers are not licensed to talk about investing. So understand this: you need a license, like the license that we go basically help you pass. You need a license to do what we do. In the basic foundation of the bank, when you walk in, the tellers and the bankers are not licensed, or the majority of them are not licensed to talk about investing. So already you understand how that conversation is going to be tailored. It's no longer going to be, hey, let's save your money. No, let's basically get you into debt. And one interesting fact that I always bring up about this is that no license is needed for you to get into debt. So that means they don't need a license to sell you a credit card. They don't need a license to give you a line of credit, and they don't need you a license to get you a personal loan. So you're starting to see exactly what we mean about, the differences of what we do and the power you have when you have a license. That's why we push, everybody who comes on board to get a license, so they can see the value in what we're providing, right? One aspect of this, I'll kind of give you guys in regards to this as well, is, do you know that 90% of the tellers and bankers that see 95% of the population that walk into the bank, they don't have a license to do what we do, right? So they're not going to talk to them about how to save money or how to invest it, how the rules of money work. None of that conversation is happening. Instead, it's, hey, you qualified for a brand new rewards card. Here you go. Go ahead and take advantage of 1 year 0 interest, but then it jumps up all the way to 20+%. So no license needed to get you into debt, but we need a license to be able to help people save money. So value what we do and value that license. It's such a great thing that we do for people, right? So I'm going to kind of jump into here, and this is fresh off the banking websites, so you can go in there and check it yourself. But basic products and the rates, right? So I hope if you're brand new or you've been here for a while, I hope you've already seen this, that where you kind of open up your bank statements and you laugh, right? Because it's funny how they name these savings accounts like some powerful names, right? Elite Money Market. You have an elite account here with the bank. Congratulations. And then if you have $500,000 or more, guess what? We're going to give you an elite rate of 0.01%. How does that sound? Isn't that amazing, right? You have over $500,000 sitting in a savings account earning nothing, right? That's a 720,000 years you're going to wait for your money to double, right? That's a long, long time. Again, this is the type of competition that you're against when you're talking and educating people, because it's something so, look at how invaluable this is for people. The last time the banks have had a respectable interest rate on their savings account or certificate deposits, it was back in 2006. 2006, 14 years. So you got to understand that what you're doing is helping people get ahead. What the bank is doing is getting people behind. right? How are you going to ever say, hey, I have a $500,000 in the bank and I'm making 0.01%, right? We got to stop being so, nice about like being real with people. But like, how do you have money in the bank earning 0.01%? Why aren't you doing something like this, And then you have over here on the right-hand side, you have what's called a certificate of deposit. Basically, it's locking up your money for 2 years. That's why it says term 24 months. So that means you lock up your money for 2 years, and hold on, they're going to give you some value here, okay? Hold on, they're going to give you some value. 24 months. So here's my $100,000. I'm not going to touch it for 2 years, right? And the bank's going to pay me a bonus annual percentage yield of 0.04%, not 4%, 0.04%, right? So now you're starting to see this is laughable. It's a joke what they're doing to people, right? And again, they don't have a license to talk about what we do. That's why they don't, right? Instead, they're saying, hey, lock up your money for 2 years and earn 0.04%, right? It's almost exactly, right? It's a little emoji. It's surprising. It's eye-opening. And it's crazy to see that, I did this training for my base shop a couple weeks ago, and I told them, like, this is your competition, by the way. This is the products that the banks have to compete against what we do for people, right? So I hope you're starting to see this. You can go onto your banking website and look at your accounts, or even open your statement and look at how laughable the interest rate they're paying, right? So switching gears here real quick. Now let's go over to what they really want you to buy into, right? So they want you to buy into what's called a credit card, their terms and conditions, right? If you have a credit card right now, you should go look at how much interest they're charging you, right? It says 0% in introductory APR. Sorry. One of the big parts there is understanding that they're trying to just lure you in, right? So they're going to give you 0% for 1 year. What usually happens with people when they have credit cards? They overuse it, and then boom, they get them in the next, after 12 months. Boom, look at what the APR is there. 14.49%. That's even if you have a great credit score, by the way. That's a great credit score. That's the rate you're earning. 14.49%, all the way up to, yes, almost 25%. So if you're calculating the rule of 72 based off the credit products they're offering, you can see why the banks are so pushy in regards to you getting a credit card, right? Again, this is the education that the bankers and tellers are being trained on to basically sell them to the clients walking in, right? So if we're here with no family left behind crusade to go help, 20 million families in the next 10 years, which is very feasible, especially with Zoom, how are we going to not go help people understand that, the banks are doing this, offering savings products that are laughable interest rates, but yet here's a credit card at 15% to 25%. And then we go over to their personal loans, right? So you get an understanding. You go to the personal loan options. You get a $3,000 loan all the way up to $100,000, right? Look at their rates. 5.74% all the way to 20%, right? They're not, again, never have, since 2006, have they ever paid 5% on a savings account or a CD. Yet, here's your loan for 5.75% or all the way up to 20%, right? They're there to get people into debt so you can understand that why it's so valuable, the information we give. But this is good for you guys to understand. This is the foundation of what the bankers and tellers are basically trained on to sell, right? So again, this is for you to know that you don't need a license to do these products and services, but you do need a license to do what we do. That's why it's so valuable. Again, the bank isn't there to help people save money. They're there to sell something to you, right? Every person walking in, it's how the bank basically said, what could we sell them, right? The bank I worked at had a slogan. It said, go for great, which meant, we need to get 8 products in the hands of every person walking in. 8 products, whether that be a mix of, savings accounts, credit card accounts, or any type of product that the bank has. You need to have 8 products, and that's where they would set the metric for the bankers to walk in to help those clients, right? So with that being said, and yes, I know you're probably saying, how is that possible? Is it legal? Absolutely, it's legal for the banks to pay you nothing on the money you have sitting there, and absolutely charge you double-digit interest rates on the money you borrow from them, right? And I always like to joke around. Yes, I know. For some of you guys, this is eye-opening, surprising, but let me tell you, this is going on in the everyday banking sector right now. That's why it's understandable. You're laying the foundation of understanding why people need to learn what we do, right? And that's why you're going to have a lot more ammo now to be able to help, right? So the banking philosophy is do as I say, don't do as I do, right? And that's why it's very understandable what they're telling people to do. And I'm going to give you a little bit of insight on what I mean by this. So, where do the banks invest, right? So, here's a big question mark. Where do the banks invest? I know some of us have read the great books and whatnot. I'm going to give you a little bit of insight on some quotes, but also to understand that the banking sector in general, when you work there, they're not trained also on the products and services that we have. Like I worked there for the first 8 years as a traditional banker, a licensed banker as well. Even as a licensed banker, we weren't talking about IULs, we weren't talking about annuities, we weren't talking about term and living benefits. All we were talking about is assets under management. You had to have a certain amount of money, which I'll get into as well. But they were not talking about what the banks really do. It's not like they said, hey, by the way, because you're an employee here, we're going to show you where we really invest our money, right? They keep us in the dark as well. They didn't talk about this. That's why, I'll challenge you guys at the end of this is to go walk into your bank, if you can, of course, and ask these questions to the bankers, and you'll see that look on their face like they're deer in headlights. They're going to be like, how do you know so much? And I don't. I work here, right? Because the simple fact that the education we give is second to none. It's a very valuable education. So, jumping into that, the truth about the banking sector, right? So, when it comes to the banks, banks invest billions of dollars in cash value life insurance. Surprisingly for many banks, life insurance is their largest asset class. The amounts of money invested into life insurance companies are large and quickly growing. We all know this from reading Money, Wealth, Life Insurance, but this is just a little bit of insight again to give you the parameters of what the banks are really doing in regards to their money, right? In addition to that, many banks have invested in life insurance policies that they do in bank premises, fixed assets, and any or other all real estate assets combined. So we have, I pulled a figure from JP Morgan Chase, not to pick on them or anything, but just to give you guys a little bit of insight. You know that they have real estate holdings. They have about $343 million worth of real estate holdings. That includes, of course, the banks that they own the property on. But you know how much they have in life insurance assets? $11.3 billion. Yes, billion with the B. That's how much cash value life insurance the bank owns versus real estate. And you can go on FDIC.gov and check that. But that's where I got that information from. It was pretty surprising to see, but not really, because you'll start to understand, the value of what these products can do, the ownership of the tax code that the banks have known that the insurance industry have. It's just all about for us to get this information out. So you're seeing the contrast right away of what the banks are trained to do, or the people that work in there are trained to do versus what we're trained to do, right? It's all about education and knowledge. So in addition to this aspect of it, this one is probably the biggest eye-opener. I hope you guys capture this, write it down, take a picture of it. But this one is absolutely 100% true. Banks, when it comes to investing their own money, don't follow conventional wisdom, which means they're not doing what they're telling their clients to do. They're not doing what they're selling their clients, right? So conventional wisdom and put their money into mutual funds, stocks, hedge funds, term insurance, or risky real estate deals. Let me tell you, 100% of the financial advisors that work inside of the bank are selling mutual funds to the clients, right? They're selling stocks, right? They don't necessarily talk about term insurance or risky real estate deals, but they are definitely talking about mutual funds and stocks, right? So instead, again, do as I say, don't do as I do. Instead, they place a large portion of their vital reserves, known as Tier 1 capital, into high cash value life insurance or permanent insurance. Banks invest $1 billion into high cash value life insurance. Surprisingly, for so many banks, life insurance is their greatest and largest asset. And for it to be considered an asset, it has to be available for them to be able to take the money out if they need so or not. So you guys have seen how much they carry, but this is, again, to understand what the difference is and what they're really selling their clients versus what they're doing with their money, right? That's why, again, our biggest aspect of it is show your policy. Show the clients that you're doing this. One thing that we were not allowed to do when we were a licensed financial advisor in the bank we were not allowed to talk about what we owned in our portfolio of investments. We got in trouble. We got written up. Some people got fired because they told their clients what they were invested in. Because one thing the clients would ask, and I know you've gotten asked this question when you're sitting across a kitchen table. That's why, again, step 2 of our system is make sure your house is in order before you go fix somebody else's house. Is these clients would ask, what are you invested in? Do you own these funds that you're recommending to us? And we would have to sit there, with the obviously with the face and just say, I can't discuss what I have in my portfolio because I'm not allowed to because the bank doesn't let me, right? So imagine I'm not allowed to legally discuss what I have inside of my portfolio with the client. So again, do as I say, don't do as I do, right? So jumping into this side of it real quick before I go into there. This was the side of the bank. This is where the 95% of the clients that don't have, $1 million or $500,000 ready to invest. This is the type of information and the bankers that they would see. They wouldn't get a high, let's say, a valuable financial education like the wealthy people do, right? So I'm going to jump into that sector now. So I wanted you guys to see the foundation of the products and services and your competition those products and services are offering with a low interest rate, and then showing you on top of that how the banks really focus on selling credit. And that's why tellers and bankers, they don't need a license to sell credit, right? But they do need a license in order to do what we do, right? So one of the aspects that I'm going to shift to here is the wealth management department, right? I spent my last 8 years there in the wealth management department. I was Series 7 and 66 licensed in 2004. I was part of a pilot program that was, combining a banker and an investment advisor. And then I switched over to a full advisor because I wanted to learn more about money, right? And let me tell you one thing that we do share in common is that we did do the same type of field training, right? So when I had a client ready to invest money, I put him in front of the broker, and then I sat there and took notes on what he's doing, right? That's how you learn the business, is literally field training, but within the bank. So I love that we do the same thing here because that's the only way we're going to learn. That's the only way we're going to see how the experience of what we're doing. And now you have a lot more ammo and a lot more information that can help you serve more clients, right? Especially because 95%, like give you an example. If you have 100 clients walking into the bank, only 1 or 2 of those, maybe 1 or 2 of those clients qualify to go sit with the wealth management advisor or even have a conversation with them. That means 98 and 99 of those clients are only going to get told about credit products, and they're only going to have access to 0.01% accounts, right? So it gives you, again, more understanding that, you would think the majority already have bank accounts, but yet they don't get an understanding of how it works because there's called 2 sides to the bank. You have the bank where, obviously we just went over here in regards to the traditional products. And then you have the side of the bank called the private bank, right? The private bank is where you get access to different products and services. Their number one goal is basically wealth management. And these are the certain type of clients that you get a part of engaging with, right? So this is where I spent 8 years learning how to do wealth management and being part of this sector of the bank, right? And I remember distinctly one manager that I had there when I first started. I said, John, why is it that, we have 2 sides of the bank where, this is the wealth management side and then you have everybody else on this side that I just came from? He said, because we're only focusing on this type of client, right? We're only focusing on a client that has basically 7 figures or more. Either they make that or they have it ready to invest to qualify. If you want to go help them, then you should go back to that part of the bank, right? So that already disqualifies 99% of people because they don't have 7 figures ready to go. But I did learn a lot from this side of the bank. Again, this side of the bank doesn't focus on getting their clients into debt. They're not offering products that are earning 0.01%. So you already see that the bank is separating who they focus on and what they're basically offering, right? There's no shortage of financial advisors out there that will go help somebody save that has $1 million ready to invest, right? But there is a shortage of people like us that will go sit across the kitchen table. Or now in this era that we're in, in a Zoom that can only save $100 a month, right? So value what you do, value that we have the capabilities to help somebody create basically a legacy for them and their family, right? So I'm going to jump into some of the things that are part of the wealth management group so you can get a better insight as well of when you have clients that say, I do have a financial guy, I have somebody that I work with, okay? So with that in mind, again, the main focus of this side of the bank is investing and saving, right? So the products that they're going to be offering are, of course, looking better as far as rate of returns. They're not offering 0.01% here, right? So, and the reason why they're coming over here in the first place is because the banks aren't paying anything in the savings account or certificate deposit. So when we get in front of them on this part of it, it was basically to talk about investing. And the difference, everyone is licensed to basically offer these products and services. So the other side of the bank, mainly all of the people there are not licensed. So they can't even have the conversation with somebody who just walked in the bank that doesn't have $1 million ready to invest, right? That's a huge, huge difference, right? So again, the bank doesn't allow their bankers to talk about something that they're not licensed to do, but they're all authorized to sell debt, right? And then there's no exceptions for the 95%, meaning that if you don't have the criteria that they're looking for, they don't make an exception to say, hey, yeah, I'll educate you about some investment. Absolutely not. Bank prohibits that, and that's why a lot of people never even knew that there was two sides of the bank, right? And that's why I hope you have a goal of being part of Pinnacle, that you don't need the private bank, but you're going to go make private banking type of money, million or more, right? So jumping into this. So what type of advisors are there out there, right? So we have all different types of ones that are out there where people say, I have a financial advisor. I have somebody who, looks at my my investments, or, my parents have somebody that they recommended to me. So I'm going to give you a little bit of insight on the banking type of advisor, the one that sits inside the branch, and then one that basically that works, like, for example, at Edward Jones or something like that. They don't have any banking products. They're full basic menu of products and investment. So let me jump into that real quick. All right. So the typical financial advisor has a Series 7 and 66 license. That means they're able to trade stocks, bonds, mutual funds, all that stuff. The main training that they receive is passive management of assets. What does that mean? That means I'm going to pass off the managing of your money, right? So how do they do that? Because what they're taught to do is, and these are very few, very inclusive quotes that they use, right? They say, well, go ahead, Mr. Client, go ahead and hand me your $1 million. What I'm going to do for a 1% fee is I'm going to diversify your portfolio, right? What that basically means is that they're going to pass on your money to different mutual funds, right? And I have an example of that on the next one, so I won't go too much in detail here. And the reason I'm kind of laughing and smirking at this is because, once you really get to understand how this works, it's crazy that, more people aren't part of our organization, but more important, more clients that giving you the confidence that what we do for people is so great, right? And that's why you're going to start to see that as I go through this, okay? So passive management of assets, focused 100% on mutual funds, right? A diversification of mutual funds within the portfolio. They're transactional because every time they buy or sell inside somebody's portfolio, basically it creates a commission, right? So that's why you have terms like called churning, right? Churning just means that, hey, I'm going to buy something today, and then I'm going to sell it next week. I'm going to buy something here and sell it next week. This is like the typical way that most advisors are trained. They're saying, hey, the market's going to go up. We should get out of the, bond safe fund that you have and buy into the, stocks, right? So basically when they sell that, it creates a commission, and then they're going to go buy another thing, creates another commission, right? So what happens there is the client's account gets chewed up over time because there's so many transactional fees and there's so many other fees that are part of it as well, which we'll jump into on the next slide. But that's your typical financial advisor. That's how they basically get paid. That's their understanding. That's why they say, I just want to manage your money, right? That's what they're doing. They want to just manage your money, right? And just remember, every time there's a manager involved, there's a fee that comes with it as well, right? So with that in mind, there's another type of advisor. It's called an investment advisor. These ones are more structured as not transactional, or they're not commission based. What they are called is they're called fee based, meaning that they're just going to charge an overall fee on the total assets that you have within the portfolio that you own, right? So they're usually tend to be a little bit less, and this one is obviously they have a larger qualification. So these people are looking for either $1 to $2 million ready to invest for you to be part of their investment advisory group. So fee based just means they're going to charge an overall fee, and they're not going to do it based off a transaction, right? So these ones are again charged on the portfolio, not on transactions. And then on this side of it here, they're a little bit more active in managing your money. So they're not going to pass off your investment like the traditional financial advisor on the left hand side. But overall, what this works out as is this is the ones that aren't in the bank. They're usually either just investment advisors on their own, or they work for a larger firm like Merrill Lynch or Edward Jones, right? But they have a higher requirement for a client to walk in and help. They're not going to help somebody who has $1,000 ready to save a month, right? They're not going to help somebody who has $100,000 ready to roll over. They're not going to do that. Their portfolio and their requirements are a lot higher for them to want to help, right? So now I'm going to jump into something that I feel that is very, very important to know. The better you get at this, the more rollovers you're going to get, the more people you're going to help, and the more secure you're going to help people understand what they own, right? There is way too many people out there that have no understanding of why they have the investments they have. They're holding nobody responsible because their money's at some firm and they never know even knew where it was. People even forget about their money. You know how many times in the last 6 months that I have people that say, well, I don't even know where my retirement account is, right? I get a statement here and there. It's like, man, the value of what we do is so important. We help people get there. I even helped the client, and this was crazy because we called to roll over her money. It was with Fidelity, and she's like, I have like a couple $100 there, so we were consolidating. And they asked this question when we were on the phone. They said, what account do you want to close? She goes, what do you mean, what account? I only have one that has $200. He goes, no, ma'am, you actually have an account that has $12,500. I was like, you didn't know you had $12,500 in an account? She goes, no. I was like, see, you already made money by sitting with me, right? Because we found 12,500. She had no idea she even had. Now multiply that across the United States, guys. This is why we're so passionate about what we do, because this is what we're helping people understand is money, right? We help people understand money. We move money. Never comes to us. Goes from one account to the other, and we get compensated to do so. And we have the best things out there, by the way, right? And I'm going to go into that here. So one of these clients that we helped out basically gave us her statement, and inside of this, I said, hey, your main investment inside of your portfolio are mutual funds, right? Do you know what mutual funds are? Do you understand what mutual funds are? She just kind of said, well, I kind of do, right? They're investments, they go up and down, right? By the way, that's common knowledge. That's a common answer. It just goes up and down, right? So what a mutual fund really is basically mutual funds, fees, and expenses are incurred by the investor who holds the mutual fund. Keyword, are incurred by the investor. So if I go invest in a mutual fund, I then incur fees and expenses, right? It says operating a mutual fund involves cost, right? So that point of it as well. I'm paying for the cost of them investing my money consistently, right? Including shareholder transaction, investment, advisory fees, and marketing and distribution expenses. Funds pass along these costs to investors in several ways. So, as I was educated to get a mutual fund, this was not explained either, right? So they didn't tell me, hey, by the way, when I put your money into this investment, not only am I going to get the 1%, but then these mutual fund companies that I'm passing off your money to are also going to be charging you as well. So before the client even makes 1% or any type of percent on their money or their money, they're already being charged just to buy in, right? So not a lot of people understand that when they're buying into this or if they own them, right? So continuing with this, you have what's called, so when you buy into the mutual fund, there's a cost, and then you have what's called an expense ratio, right? So an expense ratio is the fees that these mutual funds charge to manage your money and the expenses that they're incurring, right? There's a really good book that talks about mutual funds in regards to if mutual funds were so great, how come more clients aren't mutual fund millionaires, right? Where's the yachts for the clients who own mutual funds? Where are their yachts? Guess who owns those yachts? The mutual fund managers, right? The people managing that money. They're the ones who own the yacht, right? Because they're passing on all the expenses to the actual investor who has the money investing inside that mutual fund, right? And there's no better way to understand this, but what I'm going to explain here is the fact that every mutual fund you own is an added expense inside your portfolio or the client's portfolio. Meaning if they have 10, 15 different mutual funds, each one of those mutual funds has an expense ratio on top of the fee they're paying their advisor to put them into these mutual funds, right? Again, passive management, right? So I'm going to take your money and I'm going to charge you. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to pass it on to other managers and then they're going to charge you, right? So you see where it just kind of doesn't make sense to do that, especially in this day and age where information is readily available and we have people like us to go educate, right? So I hope you're getting a lot of this because guess what? This is rollover season, right? So if you're understanding how these things work, you're going to be better at educating and be able to collect more statements and then break down and give them a true analysis of how this works, right? So the better the analysis, the more likely you're going to get the rollover, by the way, right? So what are these things here? So on the right-hand side is the statement that she gave us, right? And I'm sure some of you guys have seen this in the past where it says the value. But on the left-hand side right here, I'm circling it. You guys can see that. This is the name of the mutual fund companies that she's invested in, right? And then there's a thing called the symbol. The symbol identifies whatever mutual fund that they own, right? So how we help people is understand what they own. So first, let me educate you on what you own, and then I'm going to help you do something better, right? So first, they have all these mutual funds over here. So if you notice the ticker symbol, I'll give you an example. AFMFX. It's right over here. The expense ratio for that mutual fund is 0.53%. So she has about $3,900 in that fund. I just multiply that by the expense ratio. That's how much she pays a year just for that fund. By the way, if you're seeing a list of them, it's because she has money in all of these funds. So what happens? All of these funds have their own expense ratio. So when we're doing the 401k presentation, you know how we say 1 to 3%? We got to increase that. I haven't seen a 1% for portfolio being managed in I don't know how long, right? What I'm seeing more consistent is in the high fives and close to 10%, which you're going to see here in a minute. So this was one side of her portfolio. This was the second side. So these are in addition to the ones she already has, right? So the total mutual fund percentage that have the ability to get a fee or an expense ratio comes up to 10.14%, right? It's not saying that her whole portfolio is getting charged 10.14%, but the accumulated adding up the expense ratios, that's how many fees that she has that she's going to have to pay over the lifetime of her portfolio. And by the way, 10.14% of a little bit over close to $800,000 is $4,629 a year. And by the way, you're paying this no matter what happens in the stock market, whether it goes up, sideways, or down. They're taking their money. Do you see why there's mutual fund managers who are multimillionaires and they have their yachts? Because they're not teaching people about what they're actually doing with their money, right? There's a book called Wealth Beyond Wall Street that talks about that, right? And then in addition to all of this, the client themselves are bearing all the risk. You understand that? The client is taking 100% of the risk. They're paying all these fees. So if the market goes down, they're the ones that lose the money, not the mutual fund company. They're the ones that are bearing the risk. So all we do is teach people how to take the risk away from them and transfer it to the insurance companies that we work with, right? So in addition to this, guess what? They got no guarantees of principal and they got no guarantees of income. Right. So one of the examples that she had, in addition to this, we were doing her portfolio example of her husband. Her husband was 65. Obviously, she felt, part of the whole pandemic going on. She lost her job, so they were living off of one of her husband's accounts. So he had 165,000. She had this. We obviously helped her out with this. But let me give you this side-by-side comparison. She was living off of her husband's money, right? So it was being depleted, being managed by the same firm. So they had two portfolios with a lot of fees combined. But the example I want to give you guys is that they were pulling money from this portfolio and it was quickly depleting. She said that she would have run out of money by this time next year, right? Being that she's doing the traditional thing that she was taught, which is go give your money to somebody and let them manage it. So she was her husband's account was gonna run out of money by the time he was 67 years old because they were taking money out of him, right? Why do I bring that up? Because what do our products do? They guarantee an income for life, right? They guarantee that you're never gonna run out of money. They're guaranteed that you're gonna keep and stay retired, right? So understand that. That's a huge thing. That was a literal side-by-side comparison. I was like, if you don't do this with us, guess what? This is going to happen to you again. And you're going to have to update your resume at 76 years old, right? Do you want that? Absolutely not. So that's why you got to come with it. You got to know that this information that I'm giving you today is only going to help increase your conviction, and know that what we do is 100% way better than what they're being offered and what people are being taught, right? So that in mind. So I'm going to shift gears here real quick. This part of it I love because, again, 2020 is a history-making year in many different ways, right? But what I want you guys to start to, get here, and this is where you're going to be able to take this tangible information and go help people, right? So in 2020, one of the years that, obviously nobody's going to forget, but there was also another year that a lot of people, we always reference when we talk to people. But I don't think you guys understand what we have our hands on, the capabilities we're going to have, but we got to move quickly because it expires in about 19 days, right? So, but before I jump into that side of it, I'm going to take you guys back to 2008. I was part of the bank. I was a wealth management advisor at that time. And let me tell you, just going back and talking about it, it still brings up the uncomfortableness, the fact that, we were losing people's money. My money was being lost. Everybody was losing money, losing something, right? But one thing I want you guys to understand is something happened in 2020 that's never happened. Obviously, there's a lot of things that happened in 2020 that never happened, but let's stick to the financial industry. So in 2020, something happened that has never happened in the history in the financial industry. But let me go back first to give you guys a reference to understand the value of what we're going to be able to do for people. Okay? So with this in mind, what happened in 2008 was that the banks were bailed out. You guys remember that? Most people forgot. Banks were bailed out in 2008 because of their lending practices. So they made a ton of money. I hope you guys have seen, The Big Short. It kind of goes into this. It gets you furious. You get pretty mad because you were seeing what was happening and they knew what they were doing. But that's another conversation. So back in 2008, the banks that were bailed out, and there was a ton of them. I just wanted to give you guys a snapshot of some of them. But they were given $25 billion by the United States Treasury, which is basically us, in other words, right? So $25 billion to Wells Fargo, to Citigroup, Morgan Stanley got $10 billion. So they were bailed out for doing things they weren't supposed to do, right? And that's where I want to start that reference, because this is the time that, people were losing jobs, they were losing houses, but did the taxpayer get bailed out at that time? No. Right? There was nothing that they gave to the person that was losing their homes, that lost their job, that lost their income, that they got penalties when they took out their money. I don't want to minimize this. This is a huge deal. There was so many people within the during that time that were taking their money out of their 401ks at that time, right? Whether it be their 401ks, their IRAs at the bank, anywhere, they were taking their money out, right? And guess what? They didn't care. They said, hey, you're still going to pay that 10% penalty, by the way, right? So this is how it worked. You pay that 10% penalty, and then all the money you made before you lost your job is still added onto the money you took out in your 401k. So what happened to people in 2009 when they got their tax bill? They taxed them even more because their tax brackets went up because they were taking money out from their 401k and IRA, which counts as ordinary income, which then again, they had to pay more taxes on. So you're starting to understand where I'm going with this, right? So there was no taxpayer bailout during that time, even people losing their houses, people losing their jobs and their income. they were still taking money out, right? And again, they were taxed on the full distribution. So penalties, federal tax, and if you live in the state that has state tax, you were getting it there too. So everybody was taking advantage of the taxpayer when they were taking money out. And there's a ripple effect to people that took out money during 2008. And guess what that ripple effect was? That means they realized the loss that they made within their account, and then they missed the wave of the money going up, right? So you see how that really impacted not only families, but businesses and everything, right? I always talk about this in my presentation. The one generation that is sick and tired of the variable strategy, but they don't know it yet until it's in front of them, is the baby boomer generation. Because if you look at a 20-year period, we turn back the clock to 2000 to 2020, they're the ones that lost the most money in their retirement account. They lost money in 2001 with the dot-com and the 9/11, and then they lost money again in 2008, and then they lost money yet again, in the early 2012, 2018, and even, part of this year, right? So they're sick and tired of losing that money, but they don't know that they have other options. Why? Because they get the traditional financial advice. Let me manage your money, let me diversify it, let me put it in different places, right? So again, I hope you're seeing this because this is where you can reference of what I'm going to show you now. So the next option we have here is, guess what? I hope that you guys seen this when we brought it up on Money Monday and then the continuous pinnacle trainings we were doing, that there was a CARE Act, or basically I call it the taxpayer benefit of 2020. And the reason why is because in the history of the IRS, there has never been a time where they waive a 10% penalty for people to get access to their accounts, right? So I'm going to show you guys here. And again, I'm not a tax professional. Nobody that is not a tax professional, please don't give tax advice. But you got to talk about what's available to you, right? A lot of people don't understand this because they're not in the financial industry. They also don't understand the value behind this because they forgot that in 2008 they didn't get bailed out with anything, right? So your job is to let them know that if they don't take advantage of this, they're going to miss the boat. They're going to miss the opportunity to be able to save money on taxes on the long term, right? So what are the benefits of it? First time in history that they waived the penalty. So when somebody takes money out of their retirement account in 2020, if they've been impacted by the COVID-19, which you can pretty much say a lot of people, not all, have been affected in some way, right? So you waive the 10% penalty up to $100,000. That means they owe zero. So if you take out 100, in 2008, they were going to take $10,000 right off the top with that 10% penalty. Now that is being waived. That's a big, big, big deal, right? And the second thing is that they're obviously going to put 10% penalty. It's a $100,000 limit, meaning that they can only take up to $100,000. I know clients of mine have already asked me, can I take more than that? I want to go ahead and take advantage of this now, because ultimately, if they're in a traditional IRA account, traditional 401k, a SEP IRA, they're going to have to pay the taxes someday, right? But if you can take advantage of that now, why not, right? They've asked me, can I take another $100,000? Can I take $200,000 out? I say no. The limit is $100,000, right? But the good thing is that you're able to take this into into control for yourself, right? So $100,000 limit. And then what happens here is that the IRS then added another benefit. This is benefits, by the way. If you ever dealt with the IRS, they're in there to make money, right? I always tell people the three largest institutions that deal with money are there to take money from you. You have the banks, you have the investment firms, and then you have the IRS, right? So if you can see why they take so much money. So over a 3-year period, you're able to pay taxes on this money. So you break up the 100,000 over a 3-year period. Again, first time in history they've ever done this. They didn't even do it back in 2008 when people were losing homes, right? They did it this year. This is huge. This is a big deal. That's why, I forget what year it was, but there was a year where they allowed people to do what was called a Roth conversion, meaning that you can convert your IRA, your 401k over to a Roth IRA, so that way you can take care of Uncle Sam now, so in the future you don't have to. People jumped on that, right? This is better than that. This is way better than that, because you're going to be able to pay taxes over a 3-year period, not all in 1 year, right? So you don't have to pay $100,000 of income tax on that money in 2020. You break it up over a 3-year period. I hope you're understanding this is very, very valuable. This is the first time in history that this has ever happened, right? More people need to know about this. More people need to be educated about it, right? So, and then what they're going to ask, why would I do that, right? Well, first thing, again, it's never happened. So, why would I do that? Because you take ownership away from the IRS. Let me repeat that. You take ownership away from the IRS. Right now, if the client has a 401k and an IRA outside of this benefit, think about it like this. The IRS dictates what you can and can't do with your money, right? If you touch it before 59 and a half, 50%. If you touch it after 72, basically you have to start taking it out at 72. So they regulate what happens in your retirement account. Again, nobody knew when they got a retirement account that they were inviting the IRS to the retirement, right? I always tell people, we get these retirement accounts given to us when we first get a job, and it's like jumping into algebra without first learning how to add and subtract. There was no foundation laid for us to understand how these things work, right? So why do you do it? Because you're now going to take it away from the IRS, and you're going to have control of your own money, right? So the second thing, it makes 100% money sense, right? So we're all going to have to pay taxes on it either way. So what's better? Pay it now where you know the tax rate, or you're going to wait and let the IRS govern how much they're going to take from you later on, right? So it just makes money sense. And if it makes money, it makes sense, right? So the other aspect of it is that you now get to do what you can to basically make it work for you and put it around in an account that basically shelters it from taxes going forward, right? Not everybody is suitable for it, but you got to figure that out once you help the client, right? So what are you going to do? You're going to be able to take this money out, whatever they have to use, they use for whatever they're going to take care of, but then you're going to be able to get it reinvested into a product, the Index Universal Life, that allows you to shelter away from taxes going forward. It's a great way to start your family bank as well, because guess what? In your 401k right now, that's the IRS's bank, right? They're banking on you paying a lot of taxes, right? Well, guess what? In a family bank, you're going to create a legacy. You're going to create your own, dictate what you want. And I know Austin has done a great job explaining that. And again, this is why it's so valuable to take ownership of your own money and do that during this time. Again, when this goes away, it goes away. Right? I doubt they're going to be like, hey, yeah, let's extend it for another year. No, they're losing money right now, right? This is how they make their money. They're banking on people taking out their money before 59 and a half. They're banking on people to, take the loss and take their money out and get hit with all those penalties and taxes all in that year. So I hope you understand how valuable this information is and how you can use it to help your clients, right? From starting out the banking side of it to all the way to where we got to here. That's a lot of great things that build a foundation around why we do so great in this company, but ultimately why it's so valuable to get in front of people, right? If we're going to go help 20 million families, I believe you should start with your own families first, right? How are you going to go help a stranger's family and you never even talk to your family? Right? Think about if they don't know this, and then they find out you're part of an organization like Peggle. Like, why didn't you tell me about that? Right? You'd be like, well, I didn't know if the products really work. They do, right? Because what they own right now doesn't work, right? 0.01% in a savings. They have assets under management with a financial advisor who's passively passing it on to other people, right? To get managed. So what we do works. What we do is valuable. What you need to do is go and take what I've taught you here and use it out in the field right away. Because this is only going to get you the results you're looking for, but more importantly, it's also going to help a ton more people take control of their money and understand how money really works, right? So, all right, let me stop sharing. So I'm glad that you guys were part of this Saturday Separation Saturday. I know that I was going to bring a lot of value today. We worked really hard on this PowerPoint, and I had to go back to a dark place in my life where I used to work, right, for a corporation, right? And now I'm able to teach on everything. I mean, my 13 years of experience here, or there when I work there, I'm able to bring that value to our Pinnacle family, so that way we can all be better and we can go help improve other people's lives and make them better. So I'm looking forward to hearing success stories about the information I shared here today. But more importantly, I'm excited about what we're doing to help people and help families. And remember, the most powerful product you have is this business opportunity. I'm not here because of an IUL. I'm here because somebody introduced this to me, right? And I see so much value in what we're doing, and I was recruited right? Just like I was recruited at Wells Fargo, I was recruited here. So, like again, the most powerful product you're going to do for people is being able to give them this business opportunity and then go show them how powerful our products are and in our vision as a company. So, thank you very much. Thank you for attending, and I'll sign off from here. Thank you again.